And good evening, BounceBack Network, and welcome to the 7th episode of Privacy Fridays back-to-back with FightBack Cybersecurity. I'm joined today by my colleague, Abed de la Cruz.
Hey,
Abed,
Sam.
good evening. Oh, I like your background, man. So you became a tito overnight, man. So
Yes, I have a lot of unspent energy. I put it all on plants.
yeah, that's good. Hope it's the right type of plans. Okay, alphabetical tayo. After ni Abe, siyempre, Attorney Kiko. Okay?
I put it all on plants.
Attorney Kiko, magandang gabi. Good evening.
Good evening!
Grabe, dito na naman tayo sa ECQ na naman ba tayo? Di ba? So,
O nga eh. At first, akala ko blank CQ tapos ECQ na pala. Lockdown na naman ulit.
Yun na lang na ngayon. XCQ.
Yes.
Yan na. Bahala na ko na. No. And syempre, kasama natin ang ating godfather of cybersecurity, Lito Averia. Magandang gabi, senyor!
Magandang gabi mga katoto, Sam, Abe, and Kicks.
Tuntua ako hanggang ngayon, okay pa rin internet connection mo, Don Vito.
It's been a bit shaky because of the rains.
Yeah. Pero it's holding up. Alam mo ngayon, excited ako sa ating speaker. He'll be joining us from Singapore, would you believe? Diba?
Wow.
So talagang international ng Privacy Fridays, diba? At ang maganda doon, he's a Filipino. So proud to be Pinoy, no? So, di ba, sinimulan ni Hidlin Diaz ang ating di ba? Ito, cyber Olympian din to sa tingin ko. Abet, Lito, saka Iko, di ba?
Yep.
Ito mga sample na when you go into cybersecurity, alam niyo naman ang mga career dyan, it's so in demand. So he's one of the guys that, makes us proud being Filipino and of course in cybersecurity.
Siyempre, Singapore dollars ang sweldo nito, no? Kaya
99 City.
Diba? Alam mo, he serves as an inspiration. Nga po, we've been encouraging.
Napag-usapan natin last time sweldo ng BPO. Magkano naman kaya ang sweldo ng CISO?
Matanong na.
Oo.
Nakita ko ngayon post ni Attorney Kiko, sana ganun din daw yung yung sweldo sa Pilipinas, di ba?
Sana, di ba?
Pakilala mo na tong speaker natin para ikaw ang naka-discover sa kanya So
Okay. So our guest for today, like what Sam had said, is a very accomplished Filipino in the field of cybersecurity. Nagkukwentuhan kami earlier, he actually just spent 1 year in the Philippines, but his parents met in the Japanese U.S. Embassy, being both employees of the Philippine consulate there. And ever since he was in the U.S., so from the U.S. in Washington, D.C., he moved over to Singapore, where he is now there for 3 years. I met him, of course, in a common group in LinkedIn for cybersecurity professionals, and he has actually his company's in a very interesting service. It's called like an outsourced CISO.
Mhm.
So everything's being outsourced, servers, software, and now even the position of the CISO can be outsourced. I guess it's really not a surprise. We know that the functions of a DPO can be outsourced, so I guess it's a sign of where things are heading. So, without further ado, I'd like to welcome Mark to our small little group. Hello, Mark.
Welcome.
Hello, Mustafa.
Bro.
Thank you.
Akala ko
Hello,
rapper
Mark.
si Mark, di ba? Yung kanyang ano eh.
Yeah, I have a resting angry face, so it's a little intimidating sometimes.
We're at war eh, di ba? Kaya kailangan talaga ano.
Tama yan.
Oo, talaga eh. Uy, baka may tanong kay Mark bago natin siya isalong sa sa speaker, everyone. So
Yeah, so maybe I just introduce myself a little bit. So I've been in cybersecurity for 15 years, working in organizations like the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, Department of Interior, Verizon in America, that's a telecom, and a couple others, International Monetary Fund. I've been working here in Singapore for the last 3 years for my company, Horangi Cybersecurity. And like we were talking earlier, CISOs aren't cheap. The budget for security isn't that high. So one of the services we give is outsourcing of CISO. So companies don't have to shell out all of that, all of the big bucks for the same type of services. So that's what we're doing here in Singapore. Yeah.
we're going to post your company's website, Mark, in case they
Sure.
want to get. Yep.
By the way, that's not the only thing we do. We're also a product company. We sell cloud security product called Warden, helping people with their cloud transformations, helping people with compliance in the cloud, threat detection, and IAM in the cloud as well. So we sell a product, and we also do penetration testing, offensive services. We have a team of about 40 penetration testers that work out of both Singapore and Indonesia. So a lot of services and products from Horangi Cybersecurity.
Nice, awesome. We're going to post it. Also, the email they can contact you, right, or your colleagues. They have information.
By all means, yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Siya na, Mark, kasi yan lang mababayad namin sa iyo, libreng promotion.
Pwede na yun. Okay na yun. Salamat.
Yeah, but we're giving Mark a complimentary membership sa NADPOP. So
Okay.
That worked for me. That worked for me.
Saka binolunteer
Worth 15,000 pesos yun.
binolunteer ko si Mark sa PH-CERT, di ba? By the way, pansinin niyo naman, may bagong logo sa PH-CERT. Papakita natin mamaya sa update, no? So, yan. Di ba?
Pero tama nga yung CISO as a service kasi 'di ba tinatarget din natin, Sam, lalo na yung wide audience natin dito are MSMEs.
Oo.
Sila kailangan nila ng services ng CISO.
Yeah.
Definitely. Siyempre may discount pagka Pilipino, di ba, Mark?
Kababayan discount.
Yeah. Okay.
Presyo kapatid, Mark. Presyo kapatid.
Yan. Parang ginawa ko hindi unlimited CISO incidences.
Hindi naman, wag namang unlimited. Wag naman gano'n.
Baka
Sana uso kasi Anli rito eh.
Sanay ang Pinoy sa Anli. Anli rice.
Okay, wag na natin patagalin. Si Atty. Kiko pala, may date siya, kaya hanggang alas 7 lang siya mamaya. Pero Atty. Kiko, ano bang gusto mong itanong kay Mark in advance? Baka mamaya.
Then, do you see the market growing?
Oh, definitely. I moved. So I was working in the West, mostly in America, and I moved here because what I saw was an immaturity in the market, and I've seen the market mature in the West, and I know that it's going to do the same here. So I saw an opportunity here, and that's kind of what I'm doing here. I'm waiting for the wave to hit. I'm waiting for people to mature and understand that they need these services. Kasi hindi mo naman maiiwasan yung digitalization, right? You can't, because that's just the 21st century. So companies are going to start doing work on the web, in the internet, and they need to be protected. So definitely there's growth. Definitely there's growth.
Right. What would you say to companies that are hesitant to put in the money?
I think a lot of startups, they say, we don't have a lot going on. We don't have anything to protect, so we're okay. But if you didn't have anything to protect, then why did you start a business, right? So those are very hesitant because they're budget conscious. Then there's also your mom and pop shops, the ones that are just starting to move into the digital world, and they just don't know where to start, right? So they're kind of frozen by indecision. Yeah.
All right. I won't keep you.
Kota ka na.
Go on.
Marami nang nakakasama mga tanong kaya
Oh,
we have to control ourselves.
Okay.
may Friday kasi si Attorney Kiko, kaya yan.
Okay.
It's a Friday ito. So kami mamaya pa, after dark.
Yeah. So okay lang. I can stay naman actually.
Good. Bago natin, ito si ating one of our audience, Sheila Marie Chanes. Magandang gabi. Thank you for joining us today. Yan, magandang gabi po. Salamat.
Yeah, magandang gabi.
Yung mga kasama din natin sa Philippine National Police IT Management Service, yun po, regularly silang baka nagmerienda lang, pero nanonood po sila ngayon sa atin, kasama po nila. Saka po siyempre yung mga kasama natin sa BounceBack Network, NADPOP, saka sa PH-CERT. Kung nanonood po natin patagalin, ito po ang ating speaker. Ito, paboritong word ni Abet to, Unpacking, the CISO. Inspired pa yan. So, okay.
Marami ako unboxing videos. Hindi
pero ito unpacking, di ba? We're going to unpack the CISO, di ba? So, yan. Mark, please take away. The floor is yours.
Okay.
Patay tayo doon. Okay?
Ay, nako, nakikinig na si Arnie.
Tama. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Mark Fuentes.
Thank you.
Anyway, Mark.
Okay. Well, thank you everyone for having me. I would like to thank you guys for your time and for the opportunity to talk today. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This is, of course, unpacking the CISO roles, responsibilities, and challenges of the Chief Information Security Officer. Okay. A little quick intro about myself. If you're just joining, I just gave this gist, but I will give it again. My name is Mark Fuentes. I'm the Director of Cyber Operations and Strategic Services at Horangi Cybersecurity. I have over 16 years of experience in the cybersecurity field, starting out in blue teams, working in SOCs, security analysis, and moving my way up the ladder. I work with organizations such as Verizon, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, and the International Monetary Fund. Today, I'm currently working at Horangi Cybersecurity, like I said, and in Singapore. So we'll just jump right into it. What is a CISO? Hopefully, if you're joining us, I don't have to go super into explaining what a CISO is and what a CISO does, but more about exploring the misconceptions around the roles and responsibilities of being a CISO. So I'm just going to jump in and give you guys the textbook answer. So I went online, found this run-of-the-mill textbook answer. It says the CISO, or the Chief Information Security Officer, is a senior level executive responsible for developing and implementing an information security program, which includes procedures, policies designed to protect enterprise communications, systems, and assets from both internal and external threats. Really wordy, super wordy explanation, really good explanation. I found it to be a little bit limited. When I read this definition, it makes me think of security guards, right? Nobody comes in, nothing comes out, right? you shall not pass, right? I won't let anything in. But I find that to be a little bit misleading, because that kind of limits what the role is of a CISO. One more, I think, yes, definitely CISOs have to protect the enterprise. That's one thing that they have to do. But they have a bigger role that they play as an executive personnel. And I would say that it's this. The CISO. He or she is also responsible for developing and implementing an information security program that aligns with the enterprise's mission and goals, right? This is because it doesn't make sense to create a program that just protects the enterprise. We have to be enabling the enterprise to achieve its own goals, right? And that means security can't be a hindrance or a blocker for the enterprise at large. So what that means is the first definition that we ran into is protect, right? Design a program to protect enterprise communications, systems, and assets from internal and external threats. These are the little breakdown of the things that you will see CISOs involve themselves in, right? So number one, there's developing a long-term security strategy, right? It's understanding what moves we're going to make in the long term, in the short and long term, and how cybersecurity fits with the business, right? Once we come up with a plan, and we have a plan to understand how this is all going to work and what our actual goals are, then we set off to design that program. And programs always consist of three things, right? People, processes, and technology. So we see the first bullet there: hire competent security personnel. That means, are you going to build a security team under you? Are you going to have maybe 1 or 2 people? Or are you going to have a 20-person team? Are you going to build a SOC inside your enterprise? Or are you going to outsource it, right? We were just talking earlier about outsourcing. Businesses these days are now finding that it's cheaper to outsource a lot of these roles and responsibilities, outsourcing DPOs, outsourcing CISOs even, outsourcing a SOC, or outsourcing a CERT, right? These decisions are made by a CISO, right? The CISO has to understand what the goals of the business are, what the budget looks like, what's the situation, and what are the best decisions to make when thinking about security personnel. Because sometimes it does make more sense to invest in those people and keep them in-house, right? Maybe you want to have people to back up the CISO. You want to groom people to be leaders in your organization for security. The next thing are processes, right? A CISO has to be fairly versed with the different types of policies and procedures that need to be designed and implemented for the organization to be secure. And I said designed and implemented, right? So a lot of organizations think writing policies by themselves is done. We can just write the policy and stick it in a drive somewhere and not worry about it again, right? That's, of course, not the case. I like to tell people, when it comes to policies and processes, not only do you have to talk the talk, but you have to walk the walk, right? You have to prove to people that what you wrote in your policies and processes is what you actually do in real life. And making sure that happens is a big job. It's a big deal, and it's a big job. So that's another giant task that the CISO has to undertake. Implementing security technologies, right? There's always new technologies coming out every day that solve different types of problems, right? There's a lot of overlap. There's a lot of features and going through the different facets of buying security technology or developing it in-house if you have the resources, right? This is another thing that CISOs have to think about when they're building their programs. And this takes a lot of technical experience, technical knowledge. You don't have to be a engineer per se, but you have to understand the basics of how these technologies work, right? After you've started implementing all these controls, your technology controls, your people controls, your process controls, you got to make sure that they're working properly, and you always want to be striving towards continuous improvement, right? Can you save money in certain places? Can you make something more efficient? That's why CISOs also had to develop ways to monitor the effectiveness of those controls. They have to understand what the right metrics are to be measuring how well something works or how well it doesn't work, or otherwise, right? So monitoring is a big deal as well. Monitoring all the controls that you have in place on a regular basis, right? You have to keep teams aligned to the enterprise's strategies and goals. What that means is ultimately your boss is the CIO or the CEO, right? You have the C-suite above you that have goals that they need to get done. And your job is to understand how cybersecurity fits into those goals. And in order to make that happen, you have to feed those same goals to the people under you, to the teams that work for you, so that they're doing the right thing towards that overarching goal that the enterprise has. So that's communicating from top to bottom, like what we're trying to do as an organization. That's a big deal. That's something they don't really teach in our security classes, right? So that's one thing that a lot of people miss when they get to that level. And another thing is staying informed of external factors and threats, right? Keeping up on the latest hacker groups, latest vulnerabilities, and latest exploits. What are the trends? What are we seeing? What attack vectors are people using more of? Like what are cyber criminals going after? What are the crown jewels and the targets that are involved? This is very key, right? You can't just leave that to your people. You always have to stay informed and ahead of the curve, as they say. So that's these are the things that the CISO does downwards to his or her teams. The CISO is creating these things downwards and creating these programs, creating monitoring. But the part that's often missed, which I alluded to earlier, is what the CISO does upwards to the leadership, right? A CISO is basically the highest ranking person in the organization that has a grasp on information security and information assurance. Anyone above you does not understand this stuff. It's a different language. They don't understand what the concepts are. They don't understand what the value of certain things are, right? So it's your job to be the person that makes them understand in their terms, right? So among those things that you'll have to be doing are, number one, reporting those security metrics that you're collecting under you and the findings and what they mean to your leadership. You have to be serving these metrics and telling them why it's important. Why should they care? What they need to do about it, right? I had one posting once where a CEO used to tell me, Mark, I only need you to tell me two things, right? I need you to tell me what all this means and what do I have to do about it, right? And essentially that's what this role is that the CISO has upwards. Another one is serving as an internal and external security expert. So internal, I just talked about, but externally, if something happens, if there's an incident that happens, or we get caught up in the middle of something that has to do with information security, people will be asking the organization, and it's up to us to come up with those answers, right? The buck stops here. There's nowhere else to go. So when people ask questions of your organization as a CISO, it's your job to have the answers. So that's a big role that you play, right? Because you play the face of the company. Another thing that you have to be doing is providing analysis from the information security perspective, right? If there's changes in the industry that don't necessarily have to do with information security, but it has information security impact, you need to be telling your leadership, right? Little things that they might not think about, you have to let them know, right? Because it's just not part of their normal language, right? Normal thought process. So providing analysis from an InfoSec perspective is really big. You also have to serve as a business advisor, right? Because what you're doing is you're telling your leadership which way to steer the ship based on the information security information that you know, right? So you are helping drive the business and where the business is going using cybersecurity and information security. The last bullet is keeping the leadership informed of external factors and threats. Like I said, you have to keep your finger on the pulse. You always have to understand what's going on out there and how it might affect your organization. And it's your job to also keep your leadership aware of these things and what they might have to do because of those things. So in summation of those two things, you're as a CISO, you're constantly in this cycle of developing things, monitoring how they work, and consulting with your leadership. This is generally what you'll be doing at one point or another during your day as a CISO. You're constantly bouncing between these three activities. A lot of people come to me and they ask me, Mark, is a CISO red or is a CISO blue? Are they defensive or are they offensive? And so I posted this color wheel here to just talk about the different roles within cybersecurity, information security, right? Everyone's familiar with red. Those are your offensive security people, your attackers. Blue, your defenders. A lot of people nowadays are abuzz about the purple team, right? Understanding how the findings from offensive activities can turn into defensive countermeasures. That's what the purple team does, right? And it's purple because it's a merging of your red and blue. But no one ever talks about the yellow team. So the yellow teams are your people who build things, your devs, your coders, right? Your infrastructure people. These people build things, and they build things, in a security perspective, they're building your security infrastructure, right? And then you have your green and orange, where yellow team people who are more towards defensive technologies, automations for SOCs, building out SOCs, building out infrastructures for security tools. Those are your green teams. Your orange teams are those people who are malware reverse engineers, building out better hacking tools, exploits, doing malware analysis and research. These are your orange team people. Where does a CISO fit here? They're white. They're basically the mix of all the six colors in one. They're in charge of course, strategy, governance, compliance, risk management. But in order to do the job, you have to dabble in all the colors. You don't necessarily have to be an expert at all of them or any of them. You have to have a comprehensive knowledge of how they all fit together to secure the organization. So a CISO is neither red or blue, but they're also both because they're all the colors in one. They're the white team. That is what the CISO is. So ultimately, what I'm trying to tell you is the CISO is responsible for deciphering information security for the leadership so they can make better decisions, right? It's all about helping your leadership make better decisions because they don't know about any of this stuff that's our domain, right? So in order to do that, a CISO needs to understand the organization intimately. What are the crown jewels? What are we protecting? What are our special unique circumstances that we have to allow for? What are our capabilities? What are our resources, right? We have to understand the organization intimately. We have to have a comprehensive understanding of information security. Like I said, we're white team. We're all the colors. We have to understand how all of those work and how all of them bring value to the organization because they're not all security controls are created equal, right? And we have to understand what's best for the organization and pick and choose what's best depending on the scenario. A CISO needs to be at the forefront of the newest developments in security and business. Like I said, you have to keep your finger on the pulse. A CISO needs to be able to work across different teams and departments. This, again, is not something they teach us when we're studying information security, when we're studying computer science, when we're studying information assurance. They don't teach us these things. This is something we have to learn over years of working cross-team, working with difficult people, dealing with politics, right? This is something a CISO needs to be adept at. A CISO needs to be able to anticipate upcoming opportunities to provide value for the enterprise. You have to think ahead, right? You have to be strategic and you have to think 3 or 4 steps ahead. You can't be reactive. At best, you're striving to be proactive as a CISO. These are things that a CISO needs to have to at least do their job competently, right? A couple of thoughts I'd like to leave you with before I finish up. Number 1 is a quote from Robert Burns. It says, "The best laid plans of mice and men often go awry." What this means is you can plan all you want, but eventually your plan's not going to go according to plan. And we all know this, right? So a CISO has to be adaptable. You have to be able to adapt. You have to take all of these skills that you have and be able to navigate changes in the industry, changes in the threat landscape, all kinds of changes. So adaptability is really big when being a CISO. The second is one for me. I used to tell a lot of people, if you want to totally secure something, just turn it off, right? Just turn it off. That's complete security. What I'm trying to say here is complete security is not what we're striving for. We're trying to enable businesses and organizations to operate securely. So sometimes the most secure option is not the best option for the organization. And as a CISO, you have to understand that. You have to be able to balance the goals of your enterprise versus the security of your enterprise and what's the best thing moving forward. Sometimes you have to accept risk, right? You can't always eliminate risk. And with that, that ends my talk. So thank you all for listening to me for this long. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. Awesome, man.
Thank you. Thank you.
Balik natin ang ating mga kasama. So, hold on. Okay. Sabet. Dito and then...
Yeah, that was great, Mark. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dito, mauna ka na magtanong.
For view. Tanong. Alam mo, yan din lagi ko sinasabi. Well, nandun, no? Aligned naman kami ng thinking in terms of roles and competencies ng CISOs. And I always like to sum it up into the 5 C's. No? Communication, coordination, cooperation, collaboration, and consultation.
Oh, that's good. I'm going to write that down. That's really good. That's good. Definitely agree.
Yan. And then, parati, lagi ko rin sinasabi, plan or die. You know?
Yes.
Even if you're saying na plans can go awry, but if you don't plan...
Yeah, definitely.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. That's right. I'm not saying don't have a plan. You always have to have a plan. Tama. I agree also.
Tama yun. And then, of course, di ba, necessary for CISO is a leader. He's got management skills as well. Right? Mm-hmm. So, siya yung nag-bridge din between the top and the bottom of the organization. So, he bridges it. And that's basically a challenge. Yung isa doon sa presentation ko, yung sa CISO for leaders, CISOs or, even DPOs are actually challenged yung ROI, the return on investment, because the company will have to spend on protection mechanisms, for example. I'll have to buy a firewall or an IDS or IPS, right? Mm-hmm. But then somebody in the C-suite asks, ano yung ROI natin dyan? Then suddenly you're stumped. The CISO gets stumped, right? So that's one of the challenges of the CISO. So, how would you approach it?
Sure.
Trying to explain to management ano ba yung ROI natin.
Yeah, this is the riddle of the CISO, right? Everyone wants to solve this problem. I see a lot of CISOs when they try to solve this problem. I mean, I agree. You start at metrics. You start with metrics. That's how you prove the ROI. Pero minsan nakikita ko, they use the wrong metrics, right? For instance, they'll send metrics to the leadership. Oh, we blocked X amount of incidents this month. Hindi naman natin nakokontrol how many incidents we have, right? So that has nothing to do with what we're building, right? What we're actually building is how fast we respond, how fast we come back to normal, right? So time to RTO and MTO, these are things that we can track over time and show, we're getting faster, right? Time to escalate, these types of things. How fast do we escalate things and how fast do we respond? These are things we can control and we can make better. So this is how we can show them that, okay, we're getting better over time, show them improvement. Because really, the biggest problem with the riddle is the only way we can show how much it costs is when we lose, right? When there's a breach and then it costs $2 million, that's the only way there's metrics to show loss or winning, right? So for me, I think we have to understand the right metrics to show improvement in our programs. When we create our programs, we have to say, hey, these are our goals. We want to get faster at this. We want to get better at this. We want to have more information on this. But we shouldn't be. We should be very conscious of what our metric is.
I totally agree, Mark. Oh, kayo naman.
Right.
Ano to? Parang thesis defense yata to eh.
Stressful.
Ako, basic tanong ako, I have a basic question. Kanina nagre-report dapat ng CISO.
So I think a CISO should never report to a CIO. I think that's a conflict of interest. I think that's completely wrong. But everyone thinks that a CISO should report to a CIO. I think a CISO should report to a COO or a CEO.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
That's good.
Yep.
Are you seeing that as a best practice among companies, Mark, that you're working with in the Asia Pacific region, or even the?
I mean, I think it's a best practice, but nobody practices that. Everyone puts the CISO under the CIO. Everyone does it, and then they wonder why the CISO can never get anything done, because his boss doesn't want him to get anything done. It's against, there's a conflict of interest.
Minsan nga under-finance pa eh.
Oh,
Yeah.
nakikita ko rin yun. So how, your objective is to keep the spending down, right? So yeah, it's crazy. So I think COO
sa finance, kasi at least nasa pera ka where the money is, right? So
Um,
pero that's a good point. Again, there's a chief, diba? There's a C-level na dapat yung CISO eh.
Yes, I've been really fighting. I've been fighting in the community for people to understand that CISO should have equal level as a CIO. We should be reporting straight to the CEO. Because security is in everything. It touches everything.
Correct.
So there's no reason why it shouldn't have equal footing with the CIO.
Sa privacy, meron ng chief privacy officer, di ba? That's emerging. So,
Yes.
may skin na naman na yun. Again, kaya nga C-level, di ba? Chief.
Tama.
So, nasa management team yan, di ba? Nasa leadership team dapat talaga. Thank you for pointing it out, Mark. Ako, I believe in the same thing. Talaga, direct to CEO ang CISO.
Yeah.
Totally.
So,
It's a long fight though. Yeah.
Sa Pilipinas talaga, di ba? Traditionally, kinakabit talaga sa CIO, di ba? So,
kasi akala nila na ano lang tayo eh. Akala nila we're just information technology, right? Pero, we don't just deal with technology. We deal with people too and processes. Yeah, right. And we know that the weakest part of information security is people. It's not technology, right? So they keep thinking we're technology people, but we're not. We're actually business people.
Correct. Yeah. I agree.
Tsaka I like yung framework na inumpisahan mo, people, process, technology. I always use that.
Yeah.
That's architecture 101.
Ako nagustuhan ko yan na color wheel ni Mark eh. So yung
yeah.
may green, orange, saka yellow team pala. And then white pala ang CISO, di ba? So CISO's the white team. So kasi yan.
Yeah.
InfoSec leader eh. That's why.
Because we need to have a breadth of knowledge, not depth. Right? We don't have to be deep. We have to have a wide area of knowledge.
Alam mo, trivia na, di ba? If you combine all of the colors, it turns white, right? Tama,
turns white. Oh,
right.
Tama.
And the absence of color is black. So kaya may black hat saka white hat tayo.
Yeah.
Sorry. Ano lang, we're playing with words. Oy, nag-question na si Attorney Kiko. Abet, ikaw naman. Comment lang. Di ba? Feedback, comments.
Si Attorney Kiko, hindi ko napansin. Tapos na pala. Well, actually, yes. I want to zero in on what Sam said. No? Sometimes you think that the job of a CISO is really easy, but as actually, we've discussed this with Lito in one of his presentations. The hardest part is being able to take all of those scholars and interpret it to management,
That's right.
help their language, and convince them why we need so and so. So during the last presentations, right, Lito, were asking, so what are the talents you need to to do that? So apparently, there you go. That's the answer. You get your CISO to do that for you because that's his job.
It's his job. Yeah, that's his job. Definitely. Tama yun. And one thing, I used to have a boss. He used to tell me, and this is the way it used to be. It's changing now, but back in the day, a CISO, their lifespan is short, right? Because a CISO never survives a breach, right? Once it's expired, right? Nowadays, people are understanding that there's value in surviving a breach. They're understanding that if you keep your CISO, he has experience from incident response, how to handle those things for the organization. So I think business leaders are starting to learn they don't have to fire that guy right after the breach, right? Back in the day, you'll see a CISO. If a CISO has been around for like 5 years, they might have 3 or 4 jobs on their CV. So
the experience actually really counts, and
yes,
it might be a bad incident, but that incident is actually a very big learning. And
Right,
Mark, you were probably laughing why the CISO is under the CIO. In the Philippines, the DPO is under the CIO.
wow, yeah, really.
Under the CISO,
Yes.
right?
For what we see,
messed up.
DPO is usually the legal counsel. What we see here in Singapore, mostly DPO is either the legal counsel or works for the legal counsel.
Oh, that's equally messed up.
Yeah, I know.
Yes.
Coming from a lawyer, Attorney
Yeah.
Kiko.
But I think it's because really the ideal state is that they would be independent, right?
Right.
That's the ideal state. Pero nobody wants to pay someone to run their own like office of the DPO. They want to stick it under some other budget somewhere, diba? So I
Yeah.
think that's why it happens like that. Pero in an ideal world, CISO and DPO should have their own departments.
Amen. Amen to that.
That's why we have the setup we do in Meralco.
Okay. That works.
Yeah, because it works. It works. We look at different things.
Mm.
Even when we do penetration testing, we look at different things. When we look for digital artifacts, we look for different things.
Yes.
Because at some point, DPOs will tune out if it's just if it's mechanical data, if it's not personal data, we just fine. You guys, that's your guys. And then we look at paper. DPOs look at paper.
Yes.
But if there's one thing though that's common between DPOs and CISOs, it's turnover. It's pretty high. Staff turnover is pretty high. It's stress. So what do you do in your own practice to take that edge off?
You mean to retain people?
Yeah.
So this is not really an information security answer, but it's a culture answer, right? You have to because people don't come. People, if you're trying to retain people with money, they're gonna leave because someone else has more money eventually. So you have to give them growth opportunities. You have to keep people learning, right? You have to because there's, for all of us, data privacy and information security, there's a talent deficit out there, right? So the people are the commodities. They know they can go somewhere else and make more money. So you have to start with not using money as your way of keeping people. You have to do it with culture. You have to do it with teaching people things that they wouldn't learn somewhere else, right? You have to give them opportunities to grow as experts and professionals. If you can grow a person and they see that you're interested in growing them as a professional, they'll never leave you. They'll never leave, right? They'll only be forced to leave if something really bad happens. But given the choice, they'll even if they had to choose a more pay, they might even stay with you just because they see more value in what you're giving them. You have to cut the line at money. It can't be money.
Yeah. It's booze and women, right?
Yes.
Because the Tony Kicks was saying, how do you take the edge off? And immediately my head said, who's?
Well, yeah, I mean, earlier, I used to tell people when you work in a cybersecurity office, you're not a cybersecurity professional if there's no whiskey under your desk.
That's true.
If there's no bottle of whiskey under your desk, you're not a real cybersecurity
You need to
professional.
take a shot from time to time, man.
Yeah, you have to. It's
Mix
just so
it with
stressful.
your coffee, Sam, so that they
Yeah.
don't.
Irish.
It's a
Irish
stressful
coffee.
job.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Everyone, our friend Art Calderon, a wonderful talk, Sir Mark, gaining you learning from it. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Sir Art. We have here, kasi probably one of our listeners, we have to block 100% the attacks through. The hackers may need to succeed once. Tama po yun. Sabi nga ni Mark, di ba? It's a bloodbath when something happens. So,
Yeah, and
It is.
we have to start shifting the idea, though. We can't be promising zero breaches anymore. We have to be promising better response, right? Faster response, faster recovery. This is what we should be promising our leadership, not zero breaches, because we're gonna get breached. It's just gonna happen.
Yeah.
You can't block them all.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. So if you see a contract that says guaranteeing 100%, I mean zero breach, walk away, man. Walk away.
No way.
Walk away.
Yeah, walk away. It's not. They used to say things like that. Some of my competitors, they want to get ISO 27001 or SOC 2, and I say, yeah, it's with your organization, it's going to take maybe 1 year, a year and a half. They said, oh well, these guys said they can do it in 3 months. I said, well, they're lying to you. They're lying. Plain and simple. It's not going to happen for you. And and there are a lot of people out there that promise zero breaches, promise get it done in 3 months.
I actually saw that written in a contract. So it's
Yeah.
like, seriously?
It's crazy. It's crazy. That's not.
what kind of SLA is that, man? So,
Yeah, what kind of SLA is that? That's insane. It's insane.
You're-
Yeah.
yeah, Mark, can
You're
you share with
lucky.
yeah. What's the
Yeah, I
dynamic
think-
of an outsourced role, right? I mean, we mentioned about the individuality and independence of the CISO, right? In a shared environment or in an outsourced environment, what personality does the CISO take now if he or she's come from the outside? So can you please share with us, the dynamics of that? Yeah.
So when I designed the service, my only goal was to be a trusted advisor for the leadership. That was my only goal, and it was basically to tell them how it is. Don't let them hear what they want. Just tell them what you see, what you think they should do. Many times they don't listen to what I tell them to do, and I said that's okay. It's just my job to inform you, so you can make the decision. Right? I think you're making the wrong decision, but that's okay. Eventually, they learn that they made the wrong decision. They come right back to me anyway, because I don't expect people who don't do this to know it better than me. I mean, that's why you're paying me, right? That's why you pay me to be the expert. And when I give you expert advice, I'm pretty sure it's the right advice, right? It's not what you want to hear. I'm not a yes man. So as an outsourced CISO, my main goal is to keep my integrity as a professional, because there's some people, they'll just tell the customer what they want to hear just to close the deal or make the money. But then you'll never see that guy again when you're proven to be wrong or lying or something. So it's a funny answer to that question, but I think maintaining your integrity as a practitioner is probably the best thing you could do as an outsourced service.
And from a cost perspective, Mark, you don't have to pay for a full head count, right?
Yes. Yeah. So it tends to be much cheaper than actually having a full head count.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But really it depends. Like some people think there's a lot of confusion as to what the value of a CISO is. So some people think our price is too expensive, and I said, well, you should look out in the market. People get paid triple this or quadruple this to do it in house, right? So there's a lot of immaturity in the market. People don't understand the role yet and the value of the role. Sometimes they think you're just. Sometimes they think you're a security analyst. Maybe you're going to be like checking security incidents and stuff. they don't know what your actual role is in the business. They don't understand it to be an executive role, which is odd because it says chief in the name. So I don't know why, but yeah.
But it's worse. It's somebody just thinks that you just need to put in an antivirus software or buy a firewall.
Of course.
And my
It's
job,
not as simple as that.
You don't need anything else, right? Just need
and this is Mark. You're gonna manage our firewall, right? That's your job, right? No, it's not my job. That's the firewall manager. Firewall
Here's
admin.
something good, man. I saw this in an ad in LinkedIn. One looking for a CISO and says must be able to create the strategy and also must be able to get his hands dirty and be able to configure himself. It's like, okay.
Walking away. Okay, not to say that I can't do that. I can do that if I wanted to, but there's a reason why I stopped doing that 10 years ago, you know?
They want a very, very expensive IT technician or firewall
Yes.
administrator. Yeah.
This happens all the time. And they think that's what my service is. A lot of people think that's what we do. So there's a lot of confusion.
Show us that ad, Abet.
It's a very well-known insurance company.
I'm sure.
Dami open, yeah. There's a lot of open headcount for CISOs, DPOs,
So many.
worldwide.
Pero walang nag-apply kasi the job description is exactly what it said.
Correct.
So no one's applying for those jobs.
Correct.
Actually,
Yeah.
they're not looking for a cheap firewall administrator, but they're looking to pay cheap for a CISO.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Mhm.
There's a lot of openings out there, pero nobody's applying.
We need to, di ba?
Yeah.
We need to inform the HR talent managers of these companies, di ba? So we can begin with them.
Yeah, plus
Advocacy.
Yeah. Plus, it starts with defining the job of a CISO, the role of the CISO, or even a security analyst, for example. And that's where a lot of these people managers are challenged, defining the new roles, because the roles actually evolve over time. Right? That's the challenge.
I was talking to this guy from Mandiant. His name is Steve Serdu. He was the head of the IR practice at Mandiant, and he told me something I'll never forget. He said, "Let's say that there were 5 levels of skills, right? Level 1 all the way to 5. If you're a level 5, you can tell the difference between a 4, a 3, a 2, and a 1, right? But if you're a level 1, you can't tell the difference between 2s, 3, 4, and 5. They all look the same to you, right? And this is the same with HR people, right? When they look at cybersecurity, they can't tell the difference between a firewall engineer and a CISO, right? Because their skill level in cybersecurity is 1. So they just splatter everything onto the job description, and then they just put the post out. And I think that's what needs to happen. You need to get someone in your organization that's a 5 to create the team, because then he can understand the difference between the different roles.
That's why we still get invites for jobs on programmers, DevOps, SysOps.
All day. I get this. All day.
Yeah. And then you see the salary on offer. It's 20 to 30,000 pesos for
Yes.
no.
And
No way.
That's like SG, no?
PHP, Oy, dagdag ko lang. Kanina may na-pick up kay Abet di ba? Sabi ni Abet, boost in women. Actually, Mark, we're looking at a way to encourage women to take up career in cybersecurity. So how many female employees do you have sa Horangi?
Oh man, we have I would say maybe about we have about 90 people, and maybe about 35% is women.
Oh, that's a good number.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a good number.
Actually, my team is half female. My strategic team is half female.
So that's your strategy, Mark?
They're half female. So I think what I find is that we have to start early. We have to start early with getting, because culturally, I mean, Asia in general, culturally, we're very like misogynistic kind of. We have like leftover misogynistic tendencies. So we tend to say, oh, like if a girl cuts her hair short, ay, tomboy naman yung babae yun, or something like that. But girls can cut their hair short and it's okay, right? Or so we don't encourage them to take math. We don't, to really take math seriously. We don't encourage them to take science seriously. We make them take home economics, right? We make them take, be ready to be a wife, to be a mother, which is okay also if that's what they want, right? But we don't actively encourage young women to go into STEM. And that's the root of our problem, really. And that's not just here in Asia, that's everywhere in the world.
Tsaka accounting. Tsaka nursing.
Yeah, right? Like why most Filipino women, right? They become nurses, not doctors, right? Maybe because it's easier. I don't know. But why don't they think they want to be doctors instead, right? Or if you're an accountant, why can't you get an MBA and be a business owner or something like that, right? We kind of downgrade them, and we don't mean to do it. I don't think we mean to do it. Ganun lang yung culture natin.
Yeah. And well, gender-wise, women are more meticulous, than men. That's my view. Yeah, perfect sa kanila yung cybersecurity role. So that's my.
Yeah.
So,
if you
parang yung ano yun eh. Parang yung ating gold medalist, Heidelin Diaz.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nung umpisa, ayaw siya pag-weightlift. Ngayon, champion.
I was thinking, like how many hurdles she had to go over to become a weightlifting person, right?
Right.
Yeah,
and did you notice that a lot of those medal hopefuls in the Olympics now, Filipino contingent, are women?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I have a practice in Indonesia, and half of my people are in Indonesia. What I find in cybersecurity is most of the GRC people are women.
Mm.
So because of the meticulous nature you're talking about, right? They're very good at auditing. They're very good at compliance. So two of my best GRC people are women.
I also see a pattern: women accountants, CPAs, taking the CISA certification, the Information Security Auditor certification. And eventually, I even saw some that actually even took the CISSP certification. So, wow, from accounting, CPA, information security audit, and then CISSP. So yeah, it's been done, and I think there's a lot of very smart women out there who can do the same.
There's a lot of potential. There's a lot just in Horangi itself. I see there are a lot of great cybersecurity practitioners that are women. One started with me. She said she wanted to become a penetration tester, but she joined as a GRC person. I said, if that's what you want, let's do it. Right. After 1 year, she's now on my penetration testing team. She's one of our best penetration testers.
Some GRC, some GRC.
Yeah, bring her over to talk of GRC. So
yeah,
GRC this morning with our friends at the PNP ITMS. So yep.
All right. Yeah, definitely. I have a lot of people that can talk about it.
Okay. Thanks, Mark. Mark, join us for the update. So this is our part of our program. We look at the what has happened in the screen, what's happening. So let me share my screen, everyone. We go to the site of the National Privacy Commission first, because that's being the governing agency for data privacy. So this is currently their site. They're celebrating the disaster preparedness month. This is for July. So, and here, so posted last July 23. So they have a emergency go bag plan or data protection emergency plan in the go bag, right? So on the checklist says collect and organize data, secure devices, backup important information, prepare disaster-proof storages, dispose, and let go. Attorney Kiko, the commission's been doing this ever since during your time also. So
yep.
No.
So I think what they also have to emphasize is on the other side for the businesses, they need to really have their BCPs in place for natural disasters as well. So if things happen, your data doesn't get lost. So you have contingencies to contingencies, and it's less of an excuse now because so much cloud storage is has herd protection. So it's not you don't need to get cloud na AWS because you're running, if you're an SME, you don't really need that much, to go that deep into cloud. You can have it on commercial retail cloud, and you'll be fine. But you need to protect yourself. You need to, when you have that happening, you need to protect your devices. You need to, because this is where the data is now anyway.
Yep, definitely. Again, emphasizing yung business continuity and disaster recovery plan po for businesses, napakahalaga po. Because a data breach is actually disaster. Pwede kong pabagsakin yan ng business nyo. Okay. Next update also, similarly, meron silang press release. And, the National Privacy Commission emphasizes privacy protection, anti-fraud data sharing initiatives of the financial industry. Fintech na naman po, right? So, talagang hackers really target the fintech industry. Talagang, because the money's there, everyone. So, that's why ito. Again, the NTC is calling out the financial industry to look after themselves, especially ngayong anti-fraud data sharing. That happens in the industry. Okay. So, punta naman tayo sa privacy piece. Dalawa lang actually pa-3 update nila. So, related dito. But punta naman tayo sa ating mga kaibigan sa Privacy PH. Again, this is the community started by Young Jacob. And Attorney Kiko, kasama ka sa admin, di ba? Sa Privacy PH, no?
I'm not sure. Alam ko sina Ivy and si Don, di ba?
Ayan, si Yes. Ito gusto ko itong announcement. Merong free resources on data privacy and data protection brought to you by the Foundation for Media Alternatives. Again po, we welcome these initiatives, kasi nga po 5 years pa lang ang Data Privacy Act sa Pilipinas. And ito po mga ganitong initiatives, we welcome it po. Ito, meron silang online courses na libre. Introduction to the privacy and data protection, Data Privacy Act, emerging trends and issues on privacy, plus basic digital security. So, again po, imbitahan natin sila dito, di ba? Para ma-present nila itong course nila, no? So, and again, next month, 5th anniversary ng National Privacy Commission. And 5th anniversary po ng IRR ng Data Privacy Act. Okay.
Shout out sa Lights Institute.
Ayan.
Yeah, that's their baby.
Ayun, sige. Thank you. Yes, Patrick, saka Maris Miranda, Attorney Kiko.
Yes.
Congratulations po sa Foundation for Media Alternatives dito. Ito, masarap pag-usapan. Ayan, buti rin nandito si Mark. Yung dark patterns, So, ipaliwanag po natin, si Attorney Kiko papaliwanag ng dark patterns kasi tinuturo to sa NADPOP course. So, ano ba yung dark pattern?
So, dark patterns are, they're, if you've watched TV shows like The Mentalist or they use subliminal programming. They use, it's something where it's tailored to you, what you like, and then it forces you into a choice. One thing in deceptive language is when you want to manipulate someone toward a particular outcome, you appeal to what they like. How do you know what they like? You get it through the data that's available on it. So the more and more you feed people what they like, you can force them to do whatever you want. And those are called dark patterns. So to get to those dark patterns, you have to be able to regulate more strictly how people analyze data about you. So that's where the border is right now. So so if you're for example, you get notices, and then the way that the presentation of the notice, it's supposed to be unobtrusive, but at the same time, if you wanted to know more, it's easy to read. But because it's now being presented to you, it's too much for you to read, just read this small bit. Then you just agree, but you really understand what you're agreeing to.
Yeah, the article says that in the US, the Federal Trade Commission is looking at it, plus even in California is looking at this. The articles emphasize that AI, for example, and other automated technologies can exponentially, make this explode, di ba? And it can be used in other nefarious ways. So Again,
Yeah.
I'd like to get the feedback of Mark, Abet, and Dito on how, from an InfoSec perspective, how do you, for example, curtail this, galing sa labas to, di ba? I mean, offers from your employees, pwedeng they can get it, right? So, yeah. Okay, Mark, Abet, Dito?
Should I?
It's a form of social engineering.
Yeah.
Diba?
It's
Social
definitely
engineering, yes. The sites, the websites collect your behavioral patterns, what you're looking for, where you go, and then they establish that. So, but sometimes the reason why it's called dark patterns, they get you, for example, to agree to something, to provide consent. So very prominent yun. Kasi yun, pinopromote natin halimbawa sa privacy, di ba? Kailangan may consent. Okay? So that becomes very prominent. Pero yung opt-out, medyo nakatago. So that's maybe a deceptive way of doing it. Right? Kumbaga, halimbawa sa credit card, bigay ng bigay. O libre yung first year, walang annual fee, etc. So they entice you to get that. But to get out of it, it's very difficult because you have to go to the issuer, file some papers and forms, and it will take you a while for you to get out of that system. So, yun, para sa yun yung one of the ways that dark patterns is being perpetrated.
And experience ko yun, ang hirap yan, di ba? Una, free daw, di ba? So,
yeah.
But in order to get that free service, for example, free 6 months, you need to give your credit card details. And then there's no reminder na natapos na yung 6 months sa'yo, di ba? Next thing you know, you're billed for a year, di ba? I mean, because you signed up for it, right? So again, ano yung dark
wala kang opt-out.
Yeah, correct.
Yung kay Trump. Yung kay Trump. Yung recurring fees, akala nila one-time donation. So click nila. Yung pala the wording is every month.
Wow.
Yeah.
Had to return so much money.
So tuloy-tuloy, ano? So wala sa fine print, no? Hindi nabasa siguro ng ano. So,
yeah.
Tama siya.
That violates transparency kasi in the processing period.
Yeah. But this is more an issue not of information security, but really privacy. It's an issue more of privacy than InfoSec. So that's why ano ba itong I read recently a lot of US and Europe are looking into it. So a lot of jurisdictions are looking into it. Although expressly it has not been declared to be illegal, but it's unregulated. And that's a way also of weaponizing, for example, AI. Diba? A couple of years back, yun nga yung sinasabi ko, yung prediction ko, AI, machine learning, even quantum computing, which is coming in already. It's going to be weaponized against people.
Definitely.
Because the only way that these dark patterns can be done is with speed. And that can be done only through AI and machine learning. And then, of course, high-powered hardware.
Correct. Sino pwedeng pwedeng mag-regulate? Siyempre, definitely the NPC, can regulate this in partnership with NTC ba? So that the sites that practice this or has this in their site, pwedeng mas-scan, So,
kasi this is an ethical matter.
Yeah.
So I guess also, the people who can regulate this are the people themselves. Now, once these manipulative practices are outed, you stop. You don't go to these guys anymore. You cut their business. Like what happened to Grindr. Na when they found out that they were violating privacy, all the financial streams dried up within a week. So they were forced to close. So, it's not just the regulator you should be afraid of.
No. So self-policing, Attorney Kiko, no? Self-policing din yung mga industries, for example, no? That are offering this. Ayan, yung mga nag-sale pag 8.8, pag 9.9, di ba? May mga
Yes.
dark patterns ba dyan na, no? Pwede, di ba? Pwede nilang gamitin yan. Okay.
But when you talk about dark patterns, right? When you talk about dark patterns and social engineering, the thing that people mostly miss is it's a people problem, right? It's you can't regulate it because the very definition of social engineering is it exploits human nature, right? So the only real solution is to teach people to surf better, to be safer. Security awareness is the only way we can combat social engineering, dark patterns, phishing, all of these things. They, no matter what we do with regulations, people, because some of these people are they're not legitimate businesses, right? They're cybercrime, they're cyber criminals. So regulation is not going to fix it. We have to fix it at the root cause, which is human nature. So we have to upgrade our people, because if you think about it, when you think about social engineering, you think about dark patterns, it's only the digital form of mandurugas, diba? Right? It's con artists, right?
People like budol.
Yeah, when you go out into the street, you know to watch out for that, right? But everyone thinks that the internet is safe, but it's not. We have to teach people that the internet is just as dangerous as the street. Because, you know, when people go out in the street in Manila, they're also careful, right? They hold their purse close. They make sure they're not too loud. Don't wear too much jewelry. You know, people go out and they walk around in a dangerous world safely. We need to be teaching people that the internet is a dangerous world. They need to surf safely. With dark patterns, you have to read. You have to read all the words. You can't be lazy. You have to read the contract. Don't just accept things, you know. The only answer to this is to upgrade our people. They have to be aware that all the things they're scared of in the real world, they exist in the internet also. Because they think it's super safe to just do whatever they want. They think they have nothing to steal. They think their data is not valuable. We need to teach people that they have to protect these things because it can impact them in the real world.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, ang ganda ng title for a Netflix series, ano? Dark Patterns.
Yeah, it's very cool sounding.
Yep, we may go back and do a deep dive here for in our next episodes on dark matters. Again, it hits you in the gut, right? That credit card thing or that offer that you took, you know, it's too good to be true, can impact you tremendously. Eh? Great, let's go to our page, so NADPOP DPO Central. Mark, I'm going to send you the link so you can become a member of this one. So, okay. Congratulations to our friends, DPX. Again, Mark, this is one of the major wins of our friends from DPX, Oliver Besa, and of course Kevin Shepherdson, right? Is based in Singapore. So dito's our third telco, and they signed up for data protection as a service.
Okay.
Yep, for which says interactive and advanced information solutions and concept incorporated. Dito, kung nag-share nito, kwento mo naman tong deal na to.
Not really familiar with the details of the contract.
Akala ko kwento mo nilito ko magkano kinita niya.
Not familiar with the details of the contract, but basically the question on the end here is, again, while naka-outsource, no, yung data protection nila, it's the people end again here in their infrastructure. Do they have the people to do it on their end? If they can recruit people and man whatever they have to man, it's the question naman is building up the capacity and the capability. So it's not a one-way street. That the provider will not do everything for you. You'll have to prepare your organization as well.
Right. Mark, it's like outsourcing the SOC, and merely outsourcing the SOC doesn't really mean you're getting a good SOC.
Oh no,
no,
not at all. Not at all. I worked 10 years in SOCs. I'll tell you, you don't know what you're getting. I'll tell you right now. Yeah.
I'm reading the data. So the service or the DPAS is an integrated bundle of data protection services that will enable a telco to set up its data protection management program and comply with the country's requirements. So doon naka-focus siya. The service includes the DPO Inbox. This is a data protection platform software ng States Interactive. Advisory support and training for key staff responsible for data protection. Again, baka si Edwin Concepcion also, we can ask him. So Edwin's also part of DP. But again, despite this one, congratulations to States Interactive for winning this deal. And thank you, Dito, for taking this path. Because you're slowly actually gaining ground from the two telcos. Diba? So, again, thank you that you have all intent to protect data of your customers. Maraming salamat. So, akala ko naman
Dito is giving the others, Dito is giving the others the run for their money.
Yeah, definitely, Maganda rin yung service nila. Well, so far, no? Ito, shoutout ko lang. It's not an update really, but was part of the ASEAN Summit that happened today. No? So, shoutout to our friends from the CSA. APAC kahapon is the CSA Congress. Again, Dr. Lee, ito po ang EVP for APAC Cloud Security Alliance. Thank you very much for inviting me to represent the Philippines. Nagkaroon kami ng forum with my colleagues from other countries, Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand. And we look at each other's data protection landscape. So, interesting to note, kinento ko na ito last week. Pero sa Malaysia pala, the government is not mandated to protect the data that they So, mas masaya mo wala tayo sa Pilipinas, yung mga ganun. And then heavy ang fines daw Singapore from my Singaporean colleagues, Mark. Grabe mag-fine ang data protection ng Singapore. Iiyak ka daw talaga sa fines and penalties. So again, may replay naman to. So again, shout out to our friends from CSA. Ryan T, nasan ka man, magandang gabi sa'yo. So, this culminated today. And ano ba bang update natin? Actually, this is the last update. Medyo manipis. But again, Mark, thank you very much for sharing your expertise. And nakita mo talaga also very dynamic din sa Philippines yung data privacy and cybersecurity. Kaya nga we have this show weekly to help our kababayan. Especially we have over 1 million members ng BounceBack network and around 70,000 MSMEs. Actually, mas marami female MSMEs members ang BounceBack network. 62% female. So, baka mangyari din yan sana sa cybersecurity. So, mas marami sana females, lalo sa GRC, as you've shared with us. So, trivia lang, you know that yung Horangi pala is tiger in Korean. So,
yeah, it means tiger. But none of my bosses are Korean. It's really weird.
K-pop is big in the Philippines, Mark. Baka fancy na sa kanang BTS.
Mahilig din ako dyan. Yeah, definitely.
Army kasi si Sam eh.
BTS Army.
Kingdom fan ako. Yung mga zombies. Gusto ko yun. Okay, once again, we're at the end of the show, everyone. Again, 7th episode, but technically this is our 10th episode because we had 3 previous episodes. So, again, Mark, Cybersecurity 104, CISO. I love what you shared that the CISO should be independent.
That's right.
The CISO should be paid more.
Yes.
Jan.
Yes.
Tama. Okay, last words, everyone. Share natin para ihuli natin si Mark. So any last words you'd want? Again, ECQ na naman tayo, Metro Manila. So ingat po sa Delta variant. Please be careful. Get vaccinated as soon as you can. And please, be careful. We always wear a mask, maghugas. Yun po yung mga basics. Alam po natin yan. Okay? So who'd like to go first for your last word for tonight?
Ako na muna because I'm the furthest.
Maybe Friday si Attorney Kicks.
It's very important to always be mindful of your cybersecurity. And you should be able to give them the latitude and independence that they need to be able to do their functions. And if they are able to do their functions, it eases the work of other people in the organization, like people in data privacy. because IT, data privacy, and CISO all have to be looking together and working together to get things done. If one of them is not in tune with the other, then you run into problems like breaches, all these other untold problems with the regulator that can now fine you and get you into even more trouble. So yun, please value your CISO and get one if you don't. Over to you guys.
Thank you, Tony Kicks.
Okay. Sa akin, information security is actually not only an IT issue. It's not just protecting my information assets, my computers, the data that is. It's not. It's a cross-cutting issue. It cuts across the organization. You know? And it starts also from the C level. It should start from the C level. So yung direction nga, like I like one of the slides of Mark, also meeting the mission of the enterprise. So, kailangan nakatune din yung information security sa objectives ng organization. Okay? So yung role nga ng CISO, para nga ma-meet yung objectives niya, so ang dami mong parts of organization. There may be HR, there may be sales, there may be technical support. So marami yan. And the CISO orchestrates all of this insofar as information security is concerned. So it's really a challenging job. It's an interesting job, but it is challenging.
Yan, thank you.
Abet.
Sabi naman.
Actually, yun nga, no, I love that slide, especially the combination of all the colors. I'm going to borrow Lito's term earlier. It cuts across. So you can imagine all the things that have that needs to gets through our head to give management, the right information at the right time. Probably just a little enough to scare them a bit, to make them realize things. But it's really an enormous job. It's you need to understand all of these. Like what Mark said, it's not the depth. You don't really need to go under the hood, so to speak. But CISO should have a definite good understanding and grasp of all of those colors, all of those, actually all of the infosec knowledge, and staying updated, right? We always get that question. So Mark, how do you get updated with all of these news about hacking and everything? If you ask Abed, he would say, RSS feeds, but that's the old school way. But now Twitter is your friend. You just subscribe to the organization's Mark's Twitter, so you can get the latest and greatest and be updated. So that's a component that we kind of overlook nowadays, is keeping ahead, being updated with what's happening, because that could spell the difference between you getting hacked tomorrow, especially if it's a 0-day vulnerability.
Thank you, Abet. Yep. May mga nagpapasalamat po sa atin bago tayo ibigay kay Mark. Again, good evening. Hindi po lumabas ang name nyo because you need to allow.
To have an account.
And ito again, yan, on dark matters, especially on the
secured.
In business calls, ethics should be highlighted. Thank you very much sa whoever you are po. Pasensya na, hindi lumabas yung name nyo. So again, Mark, your final words to our BounceBack Network, NADPOP, and PH-CERT communities. So
Sure. So just piggybacking off what Lito said, we have to understand what the value is of this, right? Information, data, okay? Because it's the 21st century, eventually we're all going to be doing business on the internet digitally. Because of this, what we're learning is information and data are the new gold. They're the new oil, right? The information and data costs money. It brings your organization money, and losing it costs you money. So we have to look at information and data that way. And because of having to look at it that way, we have to understand that information security is not a cost center, it's a profit center, okay? Investing money into protecting your data is like investing money into protecting your money, right? So if I had to leave you guys with one thought, information and data is money. So protect it like it's money.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. Ako final word ko, one line din. If you cannot hire a CISO, rent one. Yun lang po. I had a great time again. Kaya I really love to really discuss things with our cybersecurity and data protection professionals. Maraming salamat. Again, on behalf of my colleague Jason De La Rosa, founder of the BounceBack Network, I'm Sam Jacoba. With my friends, again, Abet De La Cruz, Attorney Kiko Acero, and of course, the godfather of cybersecurity, yan, Don Vito. Maria. With a new godson, yan si Mark Fuentes, all the way from Singapore. Magandang gabi dyan sa'yo, Mark.
Salamat.
Gabi. Ayan, ECQ na tayo. Okay, but don't forget, see you again next Privacy Fridays. Magandang gabi po.
Okay.
Mark, thank you.
Our pleasure.
Bye.